We are looking to pursue this next season relatively in depth. Utilising heart rate both for players and the horses, I think is something that's going to be quite useful moving forward, both in training and in games. The GPS itself gives us a good indication of what's happening externally, so the speeds and the distances. But what heart rate allows us to do is to look at basically how hard you and the horse are working. So yes, we're covering 62 k's an hour, but are you actually peaking out there? Do we have more? How hard are we working over the duration of the chukker? Are we really pushing the horses? Are we pushing the athlete? Or what's going on? So I guess just a quick rundown of heart rate itself. Basically, heart rate is the number of times in a minute that the heart's going to beat, right? So we measure it in beats per minute. At rest, a human typically sits somewhere between 60 and 100, and a horse is down at about 30 to 40. Now, obviously, these things are changed by a range of different factors, things like age, exercise, and all of those sort of things. During max exercise, though, really interesting, human gets up to around 200 beats per minute if you're doing well, right? So 2 or 3 times what it's at rest. Horses, however, can get up to that 220 to 260 beats per minute, so 6 to 7 times what they're getting to at rest, which is quite a dramatic change. And obviously the variation within that is quite large as well. So heart rate itself is actually used quite commonly in most sports now, and a lot of people use it for training as well. Does any of you guys have the Fitbits on the watch? Do you guys using that? Nah? Okay. Most of our sports science students do now. It's just something that you have. It is something you track. Whether or not you know what you're looking at or not is a different story. But they're becoming more and more common. As I said, we're talking about what we're doing here. Kit actually sent me through a link to this Equimed, basically just a bit of a rundown on equine heart rate the other day. If you're interested to go and have a look about it, they've got some numbers in there, some ways you can link into it, and some things that have already been done. Use that link there. So take a photo and just go have a look in your own time. I thought it was quite useful. Before I kick on, I just want to give you these to pass around. These are horse heart rate straps. Just have a quick look and while I'm talking, and just see what you think. So heart rate itself, how do we collect it? We've done it once so far on horses. We went out with Kit the other day. We've got the horses here, and Kit volunteered to put on the human one for us. So the Bluetooth enabled strap and watch is how we get it. Right, the things I'm passing around now look like a big stretchy elastic strap with a buckle in the middle. Now, however, if you flip it over onto the other side, there's a channel about maybe 1 metre long that's actually full of, what is it? Electrodes. Electrodes, there you go. Which you place around the horse's heart or the person's heart to measure the electrical conductivity of what's going on in the heart. We can set this to record at various different time intervals, so we can track either in detail or less detail the heart rate and the changes that are going on with that throughout chukkers, through games, or at rest. So as you can see here, we went out the other day and had a play with these. These are pretty new for us. We've used the human ones quite a bit in the past, but obviously we want to see what's going on with the horses, as supposedly 80% of what's going on. So you can't quite see it, but the strap sits here just behind the girth of the saddle. And there's a couple of things that we found during our, I guess, piloting of this that we need to be aware of. The first thing is that a bucket and a sponge, man's best friend when it comes to heart rate. Does anyone know why? Pardon? We get sweaty. No, it's actually to dampen the area. So those electrodes on the heart rate strap need to, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, and the drier it is, the harder it is. So where we were with Kit the other day, who thankfully let us have a bit of a play, quite dusty, all right? The horse started off relatively dry, and we didn't get a very good connection. So we used the old squirty bottle, get a bit of water in there, and as the horse started to sweat, the signal became a lot better and it dropped out less often. So that was a really good learning for us. So scientists going out into the field, we actually learn things too, which is great. It's almost like you guys know what you're doing. We then got Kit to hoon around for a little bit, collect some data, and then as you can see, we're down here looking like idiots outside the office, down on the grass, obviously very well set up with technology. That was one of the other issues, was technology. Rural areas, not the best Wi-Fi, not the best signal. So we had to find ways to work around that. And these are the things that we want to try and work through now, so that when we do come and work with you guys, we've worked it all out, done, ready to go. What data do we actually get? Similar to what Russ has just showed. Right, basically, we get a whole lot of figures and stuff that mean not a lot at first glance. But ultimately, what we can do here is we can compare these horses to themselves, we can compare them to different horses, we can compare them early season, late season, a range of different things. But the best way for us to do this is to try and make user-friendly models, as Russ has shown, to give you guys feedback about what's going on rather than throwing you a whole lot of figures or numbers. But when we get really nerdy, what we like to do is to throw all this stuff into an Excel sheet and get thousands and thousands and thousands of data points to look at. Yeah, woo, yeah. But that's where we get some of the cool usable data for you guys, and we can start to get the trends and the themes out that we can start to look at moving forward. But ultimately, we want to know this: how could you use it? Right, heart rate's been used a lot in humans. Right, they use it in most sports. Some of the ways we've envisaged using this in the next season or two is simply looking at the effectiveness of your training programs. Right, everyone's got their way of doing things, and the more we talk to people, the more we've found they are less wanting to change. How do you know it's really effective? Yes, there's this element of feel. This word of feel keeps coming up. They're getting better, we know that, we've ridden them, we feel it, we get it. Russ and I are sportsmen, we know what feel means. Right? We've been there, things just feel right sometimes. But wouldn't it be great if we had some data to support that? I'm sure that some of you guys in the room will be better at feeling things than others. So maybe we could use some data to show where you can best change the way that you're looking at things. Horse physiology is really interesting, and I'm going to talk about horses, but please be aware that these things also relate to people. I keep coming back to that. You guys are still 20% of this. The physiological adaptations, or the way that the horses or the people change through training, really do depend on what you do. Right? Working at different level intensities will change the adaptation that occurs, whether it be a fitness-based thing, working through lactate, or working at some of that top speed power work. All right? The intensity that you train at, based around the heart rate, will help to dictate what adaptations occur. So again, wouldn't it be great if we could just tell you, chuck this on your horse, you want to be working between, say, 160 and 190 beats per minute. You can keep it there for 20, 25 minutes. We're doing what we want. Great. It's a lot easier than feel or things like that. However, we are also very aware it doesn't always work like that with horses. All right? Just because you're riding a program for a horse that it needs to follow doesn't mean anything. Some of the less, I guess, common things that we can use for this is some I think, quite interesting. Looking at potential overtraining responses. So looking at resting heart rates and things over time throughout tournaments to see how the horses are actually recovering, if at all, between those big games or the big tournaments from week to week. We'd like to think they're doing well, but over time we can let you know if definitely yes or no, or some are, some aren't, based on some of the heart rate responses. Another cool one I'm actually quite interested in is looking at stress responses. So looking at how horses respond to things like travel to and from your games, different setups in the trucks, where you're placed at a tournament with the surrounding things. How is that actually affecting your horse? Imagine if you knew that you could put your horses somewhere else when you turn up to a tournament, they're less stressed there, therefore they have more energy and are better performing on the pitch. That'd be great. All right? And as you know, they all respond very differently. So the behaviour might be the same or whatever, but heart rates might be different, which can tell us a lot about what's going on. And also, we talked about recovery as well. Just tracking general fitness over the tournaments or throughout training. Ultimately, we've got the equipment. We're starting to grow the scientists in this space. But at the end of the day, if it's no use for you guys, what's the point of doing it? Right? It's a waste of time. So some of the stuff we want to talk about, or we want to hear from you guys over the next little while, and we're starting to link in with some of you now, is what actually you think is most important for you guys. If there's certain things up here that I've discussed briefly that you think might be, oh yeah, we could do some of that, or I'd be really interested in that, or that applies more to me, boom. Take a photo of that, get in touch with us. Right, selfless plug there. There's emails there, we've got our Twitter, Instagram, Facebooks. That's where we want to go. How does this look? Look, Russ and I and our team are going to do our own things anyway. Okay, we're going to start getting out, working with you guys. We've already got some players linked in that want some specific things done, mostly on the equine side. No one's really bought into the human thing yet, surprisingly. But there's some ways that we can make this work. We have students, right? We have researchers, but often they need to survive. So some of it might come through some sort of funding from you guys. All right, it might come through the form of scholarships, paying for papers, it might be paying for programs here, it might be paying a student to come out and work with your horses for a set amount of hours, collecting data that you want to answer questions that you want answers to. All right, we have the resources, you guys have the stuff, where can we find a place in the middle to meet? That's basically what we're asking. The other thing we thought about, Russ and I, a little bit different, is to actually get some of you guys in here more and upskill you guys in using this technology. Right? We're looking at putting on maybe some short courses or some small papers around how to use it, how to interpret it, how to take it back to your guys' place and use it yourselves. All right? We're trying to improve. All right? And if we can do it as a whole and share the knowledge, sweet. Little old New Zealand, take it worldwide. As Russ said, we have been taking it worldwide. Hopefully 4 different universities at this stage are really interested in what we're doing. Looking at student exchanges, some of their data coming here, same going back there. And again, if you guys have any places internationally that you have links with, let us know. Let us know what's going on so we can try and link in or try and make things work. The last little bit, and I'm going to pick on you, Kit, is like you've worked in this space a little bit. Now you were the one that was really pushing us, I guess, to get this started, and you opened up your gates and let us come in and chuck some weird monitors on your horses and see what's going on. I guess I would say you're ahead of the curve. You're a pioneer. I guess my question is to you, like, what is motivating you to put your foot forward and to expose yourself a little bit like that?
Well, I just knew you guys are keen to get it all going, and someone had to help you. No, I find it all quite interesting, really, especially now with all the GPS stuff was good, and then but all the heart rate stuff, I'm just quite interested in it, to be fair. And,
what parts in particular?
Well, just actually the horse recovery and stuff, really. Like, I just want to a lot of things, but like playing a horse, if you play it twice in a game, see how quickly it recovers after its first chucker to when you can bring it back, or how much I can keep playing the same horse.
Yeah, nice. That's cool.
Really, it's all quite interesting. So.
It is. Just out of interest, I've had a couple of conversations already. Who else has had interactions with heart rate so far? Got 1, 2-ish. So it's starting, all right? And as Russ said, like throughout the world now, there's these things that are taking off, and we want to make sure that we're moving with that rather than trying to play catch up. One of the things I said early on with some of the better players is they're proactive and not reactive. So we're trying to get ahead of that now and seeing if we can take some of you guys along with us. All right? So get in touch with us if you need or want, and we'll go from there. Please.
Right, we're going to